One of the great leaders in educating about the necessity for a high level of empathy to be able to exist within an operational and functional society, and why it is that you should not be listening to people, or at least those people who are telling you to diminish empathy, and what they are doing. First of all, if they're using it from a religious perspective, that they're sitting there saying that they are religious people, or using like Christ's teaching, you need to remind them of Matthew, roughly, I think it's about 25 to 40, where Christ literally says, the highest law above all the laws and above all the prophets is to love God with everything you have and love your neighbor as yourself. What Christ is talking about is very simple. It's empathy. Seeing your neighbor, seeing others as though they are you, is the highest of all the laws and the greatest statement of all the prophets. Coming from a person who people who will be preaching that to you is saying is God. So that's God's word. Another person who said it in a very powerful way is a Protestant by the name of Martin Niemöller. Martin was a Protestant in the early stages of Nazi Germany. He ended up in Dachau. And so he wrote this while in Dachau. Now remember, he is none of these things, because he literally wasn't. He is a Protestant who wrote this. First they came for the socialists, and I was not a socialist, so I said nothing. Then they came for the socialists, but I said nothing, because I was not a socialist. And then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out. And why? Because I was not a trade unionist. Of course not, he's a priest. And then they came for the Jews, and I said nothing, because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak. It is because what he is talking about is the power and the importance of empathy. This doesn't just apply to the issue of Nazi Germany and fascists and resisting fascism, that the greatest resistance to fascism is empathy and connection. But unfortunately, what the fascists and communism, what these people rely on, is that it is easier to live a life without empathy. You will actually feel more powerful because you can do anything to anyone of whom you have no empathy towards. You can literally do what Martin Niemöller is. Martin Niemöller is a Protestant. He read Matthew 22, 25 to 40, where Christ is literally telling him, yeah, you see that socialist? He's your brother. You're supposed to do something. He didn't do anything. Oh, look, there's the socialist. What are you going to do? He's your brother. Nothing. Oh, wow, that's kind of fun. You seem to be enjoying yourself. You're laughing at their suffering because they're having to do all these terrible things. They're getting beaten up and all that stuff. And that's kind of fun, isn't it, to watch? Okay, well, just a second. Oh, those are the trade unionists over there. Martin, those are the trade unionists over there. Remember? Those are your brothers and your sisters. What are you going to do? Nothing. Wow. Jews now. Over there, those are the Jews. Nothing? Oh, wow. Oh, guess what? Now they're coming for you. No one's talking. Why? Because Christ was trying to tell you, when they came for the communists, you were supposed to step up. When you came for the socialists, those are your brothers, you're supposed to step up. When they came for the trade unionists, you were supposed to step up. When it came to the Jews, you were supposed to step up. It's just like the other kind of joke people say, guy's sitting in his household and, the storm is there and the water levels are rising from the storm and he's on his front porch and the guys come in the car and they say, we got to get out of here. The storm's coming. It's going to flood everything. Get out. Come on. We get in the car. Guy says, God will save me. Water levels rise and it fills the first level of his house. And people come in a boat and they say, hey, sir, yeah, we're in the boat. Get in the boat. Water levels are rising. It's going to completely cover your house. Get in here. Let's go. Guy says, God will save me. Then the water levels rise, and he's on the roof of his house. And they come in a helicopter. And he says, don't worry about it. God's going to save me. And then he drowns. And then he bitches at God and says, God, why did you kill me? Why did I die? I was a person of faith. God looks at him and says, I sent you a car, I sent you a boat, and I sent you a helicopter. And you chose none of them. Same thing with what he's saying. In life, it can also go by a different definition. Let's take medical, right? You're in a society and the neighboring group, the neighboring of your community has disease and sickness. And you are a person without empathy. You don't feel the connection to that person, their sickness. You don't have to help them. You have to do anything about it. Guess what happens? They get sicker. And because the disease that they have is communicable, it starts spreading in their community. It spreads into your community, and you get sick. And then you get all upset because you got sick. Well, the reason why you didn't get sick is because you didn't have empathy. Because if you had empathy about a person who was getting sick, you would have made certain that that person who got sick met with a doctor, got medical treatment, got, the therapy that they needed, the treatment that they needed to get better so that they could be isolated and treated appropriately and the disease wouldn't spread because of empathy. So empathy literally can keep you from getting sick because empathy will tell you that the sick person is supposed to get the treatment, and by that person getting treatment, you don't get sick. Empathy is that important in life. So again, the next time you hear Martin Niemöller's poem being applied to whatever, understand that if you are religious, is God laughing at you, telling you, follow the highest law. If you're not religious, it's just the world and history and reality telling you, everyone's your brother and sister, start acting like it. That's it. The suffering of others is just like would be if the suffering of your brother and sister. That's how you're supposed to live. Simple. Like, share, subscribe, and please debate me. Have anyone who dares to say not to live a life of less empathy, I'm more than willing to debate you people in an instant. Thank you. Let's go.